Forces Arcana. Aha! Welcome, future witches and current witches, to another journey into the labyrinth of time and magic. There's no need to rewind or catch up. These stories, like threads of fate, weave themselves in ways that defy the ordinary. What are the odds? Here, time is a river with many branches for you to choose from. Each episode, 2 of the brave witches will step forward to confront an abyssal trial that delves into the imperial mysteries of Archmastery, where power goes beyond that of mere mortals, touching upon the fabric of reality itself. And, speaking of unlocking potential, I'm beyond excited to reveal something that Katie and I have poured our hearts into. Our new Patreon, where we can connect with our fans and share inside knowledge. We believe that there will be something special there for everyone. For those who wish to dip their toes into the arcane waters, we've created the Arcane Advocates tier. For just $1 a month, you'll gain access into unpublished content, behind-the-scenes glimpses into our world, and of course, a personal thank you at the end of each episode. If you'd prefer to stay anonymous or be mentioned by a different name, just drop us a note. We'd be glad to keep your secrets. But that is just the beginning for those who wish to delve even deeper into our mysteries. We offer the Merciful Magicians and Patron of the Ars Magica tiers. You'll find treasures like goblin trinkets, our lenticular stickers that change before your eyes, much like the mysteries we unravel. And for the patrons of the Ars Magica, something truly special. You'll gain access to our player clue board and your very own What's Your Gnosis These Days fan t-shirt. So, my dear witches and future witches, I invite you to join us, not just as listeners, but as collaborators and contributors, as seekers of the truth. Our Discord is alive with discussions of magic already, and we're eager to connect with those who share our passions. Whether you're here to learn, create, or simply to enjoy the ride, there's a place for you in our circle. Until next time. Keep your minds open, your hearts curious, and remember, magic is real if you know where to look.
You say parabox or paradox?
I don't think he has my friend's best interest in mind. Why, I want them to be ghosts for their own benefit.
Hannah's already died before because that's how they became Hannah. Like, Dorothy died. Hannah could die. They might come back though because they're alive, but it could just be like Hannah is gone and then someone new is them.
This is the last stop before we get off. Are you sure this is the choice you want to make? Quickly, there's danger among us. And then I press.
I'm gonna destroy it. Let's go stab that with your sword. That was God? God is so dumb. We're going to show you a great time.
What is your relationship with the God Machine? We are going to be delving into a mystery with...
I don't ever play. I always DM. I don't ever have to roll anything.
Now her fate is tied to that of the fools.
You look for something. Are you willing to gain it back for one final sacrifice? Come. There may yet be time for you to do so.
I push up my glasses. I had to stop her from screaming.
We've done it millions of times before, but it's also the
Yeah.
first time right now. It all begins, it all ends, it all continues, and it continues now. Set the scene for us, Kazabon.
Right now, we are at the ziggurat. We are looking at ourselves at the ziggurat. There seems to be a weird sensation of looking at yourself through time that if you're not used to it, you'll really get upset. Anansi looks at Parallax. He says, "Do you know what's in this jar?" And he holds up a clay jar towards you. There seems to be some runes along its surface. He says, "Do you know what's in this jar?"
I have no idea. What is it?
He says, Can't you remember? Can't you remember that you asked me this exact same question when time was reversed?"
A lot has happened since then. I'm having trouble remembering all the details.
And I think that for a moment, we just experience all these flashes of Parallax's life out of order. It's almost as if moments from your past and moments from your future are all overlapping. And without using your time arcana, you can't differentiate for a moment. You've gained a beat and the condition out of sync.
He says, "That's a shame. Not really. But would you like to know what's in this jar?"
Would I like to know? Yes. I think I have a feeling what it is, but I'm not sure. And I'm afraid of what the implications could be.
Implications. You don't seem to be one afraid of implications, considering the implications of this implication.
Well, normally, no. But considering our history, I am a bit hesitant.
Well, before I can show you, let me show you. And all of a sudden, we take a trip back to tell me what's a memory that has the most significance in your magical development.
Magical development. Probably the very beginning, where I don't even know what to call it. It was like a crystal realm, and it was where my magic was awakened.
So we would see Matthew Durham, not Parallax yet, on his knees, 36 hours in. He's stuck in between these three glass mirrors that are just projecting reflections of himself infinitely. And he's undergoing this experiment in Boston University at the behest of Potestus, his future mentor, his future victim, a man who he will kill. For years, it's questioned whether Parallax has actually been driven to awakening, something that's been known to create banishers tied to the abyss. And where would Parallax be experiencing this scene from?
Am I still atop the ziggurat, or
We're actually looking at you being driven to awakening. We're standing outside the timeline. We're seeing the timeline as a parallax, an infinite scrolling, infinitely complex, but yet ever so simple, as you can see all of your timelines at the same time. But this timeline we are focused on is you being awakened. Anansi looks at you, he says, so you remember the remembering?
Bits and pieces. I do, yes.
And as this happened, Durham sees, he looks at you, but it seems that you are just one of those reflections that are infinitely reflecting back at him.
I mean, what is time but not sort of a fragmentation of all the possibilities of what could be? So if you're looking at me in an instance right now, then am I not just a fragmentation of myself? It's very moment.
Sometimes, yes, a fragmentation. Sometimes, no, you are the center of this timeline. So while this is happening in the present for Durham, this is happening in the past for Parallax. What can be said about the future?
Only that there's a whole multitude of possibilities.
Possibilities? Well, if they're possibilities, how come they're happening right now? Every single timeline that you can see is happening right now. Given the chance, would you step forward and stop yourself from being awakened?
Absolutely not.
Ah, good sense. Good sense. You
Well,
realize that you are actually holding on to this jar. Would you like to open it?
I do. I'll open the jar.
As you open this jar, a thick, golden, viscous liquid covers your hand. It's overflowing. There is no way of stopping this right now. Within this thick, golden, viscous liquid that, if you know what it is, it begins to surround you, making this bubble around you. You are now inside this jar, looking out at yourself, looking at the insides of it. What do you do?
Do I happen to know what this golden viscous stuff is? Have I been around it before?
I believe you have. As you try to move in this liquid, your mouth opens and you realize that it's honey. Sweet golden honey.
I'm gonna just sort of let it take me. I'm just gonna sort of succumb to the envelopment and sort of just let it do its thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you do this, you are shot forward into time. You are now standing at the ziggurat. You are now Anansi, and you find yourself talking to yourself, asking yourself if you know what's in this jar.
Okay. So I'm Anansi now, and okay. Do I say the exact same things?
It's almost as if you're an observer. You hear yourself speaking, you see yourself talking to yourself, but you're just observing it because you are actually looking at this conversation happening from outside of that timeline.
I think I'm going to layer the audio of the previous conversation over this one as you are talking. You should know.
All right.
Man, I don't even know what to do. Man, I don't even know what to do. So I'm observing this whole new conversation. And I know how it's gonna play out. And I
Implications.
So I'm outside of the conversation, sort of looking out, like outside the timeline.
Yeah.
Going to see if I can't traverse the timeline, go even further.
As you take a step, Anansi appears behind you and says, "Do you see now the implications of this implication? Are you going to step forward and tell yourself that you know what's in this jar?" You don't seem to be one afraid of implications, considering the implications of this implication.
Yes. I feel like regardless of the outcome, the need is there.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the timeline snaps, it breaks down, you step forward, you tell yourself that you are indeed inside this jar, looking at yourself being awakened, being inside this jar. And Anansi says to you, "Look at that. Completion. You do indeed remember what's in this jar, don't you?"
Oh, I remember.
You're back on top of the ziggurat. He says, "Things like these are simple, yet also complex. Is there anything that you would also like to change about yourself, about these timelines?"
About myself as a person, I mean, who wouldn't want to look at their flaws and want more? My skills as a time mage have never been where I would want them to be. Others look at me and see me as an archmage of time, yet I find myself lacking, for the better sense of the word, but what the possibilities of what I can do. And even then, there are parts of my past self where my ego got in the way of many important decisions, perhaps even harmed those that I consider dear to me.
Now, seeing as you want to remember, can you remember a time where you've had your greatest display of magic?
Greatest display, huh? Probably when we were in the abyss. And
Say it like it's there. Say it like it's happening now.
in the abyss, when I saw that devastation before me, I changed it. I switched back the clock, and I made sure that timeline did not happen.
You recognize now that just like with the jar of honey, you only knew that it was happening because it had happened, because you'd been there and you'd experienced it, but then you hadn't. Or what had experienced? Was that you?
What's that?
Was that me?
What's that?
Was that me?
Oh man, Was that actually me, or was that one of my other me's? Was it another version of myself that did that?
I think that we're inside the city of Parallax before it's destroyed. Everyone in the city of Parallax is a Parallax. You've never seen it this functional. They're all going about their tasks and they can't necessarily see where you are. This is inside the Imaginarium, so in theory, anything that you imagine here becomes real, but it's just another part of your timeline in a way.
Do any of the other parallaxes stand out in any way?
Yes, but you're going to tell me how.
All right, yeah. So a lot of them stand out. They're pretty much the same. They're very minor differences, maybe different outfits, obviously, but some of them might have some noticeable scars across their face. Some of them have different hues of like skin tone, like alien-like almost, like even blue or green. Some of them definitely have these sort of even far out sort of maybe even like amphibious sort of characteristics. And some are even more like station characteristics, but just the whole gamut of possibilities.
There's like a cyborg parallax, and we've got a dog person parallax, all the parallaxes.
And I guess, yeah, now that I'm here, I guess I'll just start walking and see what I find.
You hear a voice behind you yet again. He says, how would you like to know how to look behind you?
My character turns around and then forward again.
Yeah, as you turn around, you see your own face. However, that's the only distinguishing feature, as it's a pink-toed tarantula wearing your face.
It feels weird to walk amongst this place. I can't tell you how many versions of myself that I've killed off or just eliminated from the timeline.
Everyone here is dead. It's all just a matter of time. And you'll be the one who kills them.
Is that the Council of Ricks, right?
Very Council of Ricks and a Wisdom 2 Parallax decided that the only way to be safe from his other versions was to kill them all with an atomic bomb.
Yeah. I can teach you a spell to look behind. Look behind yourself. All of time is like a web, an intricate web. Just a story of you, being you, playing you, interacting with you. All these things seem to come from the center. But have you ever seen a spider build a web from the center?
I can't say I have, no.
It starts with a line that evolves into a complex geometry of shapes. I could show you how to start this line, a new timeline.
New. Alright, show me. I think I'm ready.
You think you're ready? This line requires great sacrifice, as something cannot come from nothing. How about this? You do me one favor, and I teach you one part of this complex spell.
All right, what favor will you ask him?
Tell me, what is your greatest regret?
Well, my biggest regret would be killing my old mentor, Testis.
Instantly, the scene shifts. You are looking at yourself standing there, your moments before that realization hits you. Why did you kill your mentor?
He, what do we call him again? The stones.
So there's shards of the celestial ladder, and you know. So let's jump back. We're standing on top of a mountain, ridiculously high, clouds below us. There's a portal behind you that he's just opened. He's holding these crystals in his hand, the black one, death, that will one day belong to Ethel. The shard that will someday sit inside of Hannah's chest. You see the glowing crystal of Prime. He's already a master of Prime, so he must be an Archmaster now. His eyes sparkle with the power. He's raving something. The sword with the crystal of time is in your hand. You're about to cut off his head before he recognizes what you're about to do. You get a ridiculous number of successes on this roll, like 13.
I regret this, but I feel like the action to take is almost inevitable here. He was corrupted by these shards of the celestial ladder. And
Do you have any Prime magic?
I don't think so.
Do you have any unspent experience points?
Probably do. Let's see. Excuse me. I have 4 points of experience.
I would give you, now this is a big commitment, a dot of Prime for 3 of it.
That would give you prime sight, wouldn't it? You know what? It's pretty nice. I'll do it.
All right. With your new knowledge of Prime, you can tell it was not inevitable. This moment here is defining. This moment here, if you didn't kill him, would change the face of reality, would change everything. We'd go back to this. Kind of like how you undid the entire timeline, everything else would stop. It would only be this moment. And you could play it out from there. But you might never meet Alora.
Man, who do I even know at this point? So Ethel I hadn't met yet. I don't think I met Hannah. Yeah, a lot has changed since then. Wow, I wouldn't have been excommunicated from Civil Ladder. Yeah. Wow. But then, the whole timeline being ruined at 1692 and all that wouldn't have happened either. That'd be pretty nice.
With your new dot of time magic, you actually can tell that the timeline in 1692 would still be ruined, actually.
Oh, so it'd just be a whole. Actually, that's right. It'd just be a whole segue. But then again, as a time mage, I could probably just.
You're still looking at it in terms of one timeline. You're still looking at it like you. You're still seeing, this is my timeline. This is where I'm at.
But we are looking at yourself, looking at yourself, looking at yourself, looking at yourself, looking at yourself.
So even if
Enough.
if I'm just being an observer here, it sounds like I can actually.
Yeah, you are actually looking at the scene The scene is in stop motion right now. Every second that passes there, 10 million years passes here. But you can whisper to yourself. You can tell yourself what you remembered.
This is a huge decision. I don't even know what I want to do here.
There's a number of ways to look at it. I would encourage you to look at it through your obsessions and your knowledge of how arcana work. I would also encourage you to ask questions and use spells.
Right. So, all right. So, I'll do a sort of a divination spell right here. I want to see, so say I hypothetically don't kill Testis here. What would happen? Like, would he...
Roll time plus gnosis. Now you can add a yantra if you'd like to.
Yeah, I got my pocket watch with me.
Yeah, you take it out. There's a crystal in its face. Time magic.
I got 5 successes there.
Well, that's what we call an exceptional success. So, the first thing is you take a beat. The second thing that you realize is that if you do not kill Potestis now, you, the sentient, pretty much Archmaster, will live out this point, and you will live a dramatic and exciting and powerful life. You also realize that over your experience, and you realize that you're kind of almost experiencing this timeline. You're seeing what happens. You're living through it and then returning here. And what you see is that something is wrong with the world. Something is wrong with time. Abyssal time begins to leak more and more into our reality. And then, with your third success, you see it as Boston flips into Rukavira, the city of broken eyes. It becomes the nega timeline because it was never dealt with. And you go back and you try to fix it, but without your friends you can't. And you go through many lifetimes here for just a moment. It's like Doctor Strange counting out the possibilities. With an exceptional success, you don't think that there's any way that you can live this life and not face the extreme consequences of what you've already done. Because you didn't just change your timeline. That's not what the fools did.
Perhaps if I could try to take the shards from him, but then I myself would fall to their corruption. Or could I get the shards ever so briefly and try to bring it back with me to...
For a split second, instead of this jar of honey inside your hands, you see that you do indeed possess these shards of the celestial ladder. You look down, you see them. What are you going to do with them now that you have them?
Wow. I immediately cap the jar. And hope that the jar can contain the power that's within it.
So you're going to take the shards of the celestial ladder and put them into this jar of honey?
Yeah, I think I'm going to.
Yeah, you do it. Immediately, you slam that lid on, and something strange happens. That version of yourself that is inside of this jar is suddenly surrounded by billions of stars. You feel as if something strange has happened, as if someone has altered your own timeline. You remember, though, a very faint memory. It might have been you. Was it the tarantula? Wait, how did you get in there?
The rest of the scene is gone now. You're just in the stars. You've gained one in death. You've gained one in, I believe it would be prime. You've gained one in space, let's say. And you've gained one in life. You are the jar, and the crystals are all embedded in your body somewhere. And you've also gained one in, that's right, time. You're holding 2 pocket watches now. It is a wisdom sin. Roll a single die.
Oh, I got 00. Should I?
Yeah, roll it again.
I don't know why I said it's. I got a percentile die. That's what I'm going. So it's 5.
Okay, well, that's still 1 success, so you don't lose wisdom, and instead regret this choice immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I already. You didn't have to tell me that. I already did regret it. Yeah, no. So here we are.
Yeah.
Oh,
you are there drifting through the stars. You have no direction of what is up, what is down, left, right, in and out. But you do hear a familiar voice behind you saying, "Wouldn't you like me to teach you how to look behind yourself?"
not quite yet. I have something I feel like I want to open the jar again. And with the shards, try to rebuild the celestial ladder.
All of a sudden, you are there standing, you're looking at yourself, looking inside of the jar now. You want to tell yourself that no, this is not a good idea. This does not end well. But there seems to be some sort of a barrier, like a film, almost as if it's made of this thick, golden, viscous liquid that you scream at yourself, "No, don't do it." But the self that is looking inside the jar, looking beyond yourself, can't seem to hear the warning. And if he does hear the warning, this dilation of time, 1 second being 10,000 years, what do you do? Do you try to rebuild the ladder?
I think this requires another divination spell to see.
Absolutely, yeah. Roll roll time plus gnosis.
Oh, yeah. Looking good so far. 7 successes.
The first thing is that you gain a beat. The second thing is that as you put the shards of the celestial ladder together in this vision, you find that they pull you into them. You become one with them as they are already one with you, and you grow and the sky splits. Your visions, time itself, stop. But just in that second before time stops, someone appears, a figure, covered in rags. They move with slow motions, shuffling a deck of oversized cards. Their hands have no skin. Even though this is Parallax's spell, Anansi, you would see and recognize this figure. They're another Archmage in a way, an Ascended Archmage. An Ascended Archmage that you have fought before and will fight again. In that moment, as you see yourself ascending, you also can tell that there are consequences for this choice. What questions would you like to ask, Trevor?
Is this person holding a tarot deck by chance?
Yes.
If they were to do a reading with those cards right now, what cards would they pull?
Death.
Who is this person in the robes? Do I know them?
You don't know them, but they know you. They have a name, but the name does not make sense. They have many names. One name is that they are a prophet.
If I were to go through with this, would I still continue to be, how do I phrase this? Do I sort of become one with like the ethos? Am I still like a person, or do I like just sort of fragment?
I mean, I could have Kazabon answer this one, but you know the answer already.
So I go at 3 more questions.
Mhm.
Does the hooded figure say anything to me at all?
They do.
Can I ask what they say?
With your 6th question, you ask what they say. Also, when I raised 5 fingers, Zoom thought I was raising my hand.
Oh, cool.
That's actually kind of cool, yeah.
Also terrifying.
Also terrifying. But yes, you can ask what they said to you. They said, brother, welcome to the game. Here we are again.
They said again. What? So they clearly know who I am. Time Mage stuff. Okay. Because now I'm thinking like, all right, so it's like a singular sort of thing. It's like, all right, yeah, maybe we met in the past, but it's probably an alternative version of myself that had met him or something.
You once again remember that there's something behind you.
Oh, that's right. I'm going to sort of withdraw my last question because I feel like I know enough. And I step back and I look behind myself and I think, it's like, yes, I think I would like to learn to look back.
He says, so do you remember now the spell I taught you to look behind yourself?
I do.
When you look inside the jar of honey now, what have you replaced the stones with?
It's another pocket watch, but it's not mine.
Does it have the time crystal in it?
It does, but it looks like it has been sort of sitting outside for a long time. It's like very weathered, almost brittle by the look of it, but it's not. Like it looks like by just touching it, it would like poof dust, but no, it's very sturdy.
Yeah, you lose all those dots except for the one in time.
The scene changes. We're back at the ziggurat. You seem to remember something about the Prince of 10,000 Leaves. Something important that is necessary, but yet not that necessary, but something that drives you to want to change a moment of that timeline. What is it?
Moment of 10,000.
There's something in the ziggurat, and you never went below.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Never really felt the need or want to go down, but isn't that? Yeah, that's okay. I peer into the ziggurat, try to look below.
As you try to peer into the ziggurat, you feel yourself pulled into the jar, and at the same time, you feel yourself come out of the jar. It's almost as if you can slip between timelines very simply now. You hear a familiar voice behind you. What about this timeline needs changing? What about this timeline needs correcting? What should be added? What should be subtracted? How can we maintain balance?
Maintain balance.
You do feel it, that balance. It's something that when you killed Potestus, you felt the balance shift. It's something that when you put the stones inside the jar, you felt the balance shift. It's almost like you felt that move that you made toppled the board off of the table. But there was just another table beyond that. If you maintain balance, the board stays here. If you don't maintain balance, you feel like it shifts to somewhere below. You're in the abyss now, and you wonder what's below that.
You're in the abyss now, and you wonder what's below that.
The abyss, well, being the abyss, I feel like is a sort of necessary realm. What could I possibly do to change things here for the better while keeping balance?
As you ask this question, you see a parallax of realities within this current timeline. No timeline shifting here, but you have a strange sensation of the time that is inside this timeline. It's almost as if instead of moving left or right as one would expect on the x-axis, it's actually moving up and down on the y-axis. And you can see multiple layers of time, multiple layers of space interwoven together. And you see that what is a necessary evil is now destroying all the realities that it comes in contact with, turning it into itself. Soon, there would be nothing. Soon, there would only be abyss.
Abyss.
It's the prince.
Yeah, I was about to say he's the one that's sort of consuming it all. Well, I guess we'll have to wipe Prince of 10,000 Leaves off the board.
You hear a voice behind you. He says, "Wouldn't you like me to teach you to make a time loop?"
I felt like I already knew how to do that, but why does it seem maybe not?
I mean, Haven't you tried wiping timelines out of existence only to have them reoccur?
I have.
Well, why don't you simply put them in a loop where the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning?
The beauty of it is just so simple to your mind. If you can make the loop, it's just like these memories. Suddenly, you wouldn't need to be threatened by all of those parallaxes. They would just be a continuation of you. Granted, that would mean that you would need to die all those deaths. Those are unclosed loops. What you did in 1692 right now is an unclosed loop. What you did when you erased the entire timeline, that, my friend, is an unclosed loop. You are unzipping, but you're not zipping things back up, and it's got to go full circle. Otherwise, it's a paradox.
All right. Yeah. I guess we're gonna have to try to close the loop then. I can't even imagine the crap. There's so many mistakes I made along the way. There's so many loops I have to close, and now I have to live all those realities at once.
You didn't even open this loop. The prince has been open for a long time. The prince is another unclosed loop. You can feel it. It's not even that you have to deal with your own repercussions. It's that you have to deal with the world.
Well, let's start
The
simple.
world is an
We'll-
unclosed loop.
We'll close. Yeah, we'll close. We'll keep it simple and close this one loop right now.
The scene shifts. What was the first time you encountered the prince?
What was the first time? It must have been. What's his name? What was the first time when I met Rex, perhaps? And
Rex showed up to
Yeah.
try to stop you because you found the Ogma Infinium. It held all the knowledge, no big deal.
I think that was probably. Yeah, I think that was when I first met him. That's when I found the clue and sort of peered me into the reality.
Yeah. You feel a shift and you look down. It is this Ogma. It's open. You are looking at it. What does it say? What do you feel?
Am I looking at the book? What's the book say?
Yep. And what I will tell you is that it is a story of Parallax in the Nega timeline and all of his great accomplishments. And it does tempt a different version of yourself to go to that Nega timeline.
It does tempt me, but I did see the version of myself from that timeline and how corrupt he had become.
You closed the heck out of that loop.
Yeah, definitely closed that one. There was definitely a point in my character's past where I would have been gleeful to traverse down that path. But that was an old me.
There's something else there, though. Something hidden in the words. Clues. You can feel them. The knowledge is pulling you deeper into the prince's timeline. Do you want to search the entry from your memories?
Yeah, I'll search them, sure.
The first thing you realize is that it's written in a code. While it does detail your life, it seems to be written by someone that was looking at you. It seems to be a memoir of things that could have happened, should have happened. What happens next is that you realize this loop was opened from the beginning of magic. There's no way of closing this loop without closing magic. And you're only here because magic, right? you realize that you find information concerning a particular jar of honey, and it has a note scribbled, "Do not open."
See, the jar seems so familiar though, because it's been twice now that I've played with the same jar. Has it been 3 times? Okay, 3 times.
Roll time gnosis.
All right. 4 successes.
You snap back. You are now experiencing time 2 ways. You're experiencing time looking at the book, and you're experiencing time looking at the jar. It's the first time you've ever seen this jar. This voice behind you handed it over. You didn't really look at his face. You stopped looking at people's faces for some reason. It's almost like you want to avoid that confrontation. And you're looking into this jar, and you hear a voice from this jar says, "Open me."
So I hear a voice that says, "Open me," but there's still a note on it that says, "Do not open."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're experiencing these 2 timelines at the same time.
Now the book said a lot of stuff about my accomplishments as negative Parallax. Does it say anything about me opening this jar?
It says that you do open this jar. But it also has a note that says, "Do not open this jar."
See, I don't want to open this jar, but my character would definitely open it. I open the jar.
That timeline that says, "Do not open," the scribbles seem to reverse themselves as if being written backwards, and it says instead, "I open the jar to infinite possibilities." You hear a voice behind you. Do you remember now how easy it is to close the loop?
It seems almost elementary now.
You need to close it. You need to close not just the jar, ever opening the jar.
Yeah, sure. I do all those things. I close the jar, open the book, all that stuff.
It does seem that you found out how to mess up really bad and then quickly Control-Z it.
Perfect. That's what I do all the time anyway.
You hear a voice behind you. He says, "Listen now." And he actually steps forward. It's a figure. He's dressed in purple robes. They're trimmed with gold. He has a staff, and dangling from the staff, there is a clay jar. You instantly recognize this jar. He looks at you. You look at him. He seems to have your features, albeit slightly different. He tells you, "I need your help, Parallax. I have been doing this, I don't know how long. What is length of time to someone who has lived all the time, who has died all the time, who lives all the time, who dies all the time, constantly, repeat, loop after loop. I need your help, Parallax. Help me close the loops."
All right, let's close them.
Instantly, you're back inside the ziggurat. You know what the prince is like. How did he even come about? Where is his beginning, and what will be his end?
What was his beginning? he was an entity that the abyssal entity that
He has one. You just don't know it. You sense it now.
I'm gonna sort of traverse to his beginning. If I can.
Time gnosis.
6 successes.
You gain a beat. And you are transported to a time where paradox reigned. And all abyssal entities start somewhere, as all spirits start somewhere. A spirit might start as a mote. An abyssal entity starts the moment paradox occurs. That circle of paradox is the foundation, the basis for all of these entities. And they grow and they grow and they feed like a cancer. Every moment of paradox entering into them, feeding them. Now you see this moment of paradox that caused this prince to be born. Why does he consider himself a prince, you wonder? But you see his beginning.
The moment that you see stretched out before you is somewhere in Egypt. You see these massive pyramids being constructed. You're in a palace. In fact, you feel almost as if you're in the entire world simultaneously, with these great disparities, while the people are all slaves. The people outside, the people inside are princes and queens, immortals, gods. They revel. Slaves litter the floor in various states. One of the figures, a woman, is singing. She sings from a high balcony, and you yearn to be there near her. You can feel that you're getting close. She's Egyptian. Her hair, long, dark silk, braided with all sorts of jewelry. She might be the most beautiful person you've ever seen.
All right, yeah. I guess I walk up to her, and I'm like, I just say hello.
As you walk up the stairs, it's a curved sandstone path. You see, or you sense, or you know, there's another figure walking up the other staircase. And as you reach the top, you see your brother, and you know what he intends to do. You move towards him to stop him. He moves too. Too fast. He has allies. You feel them pulling you back, stopping you, as he rips out her heart and casts her over the balcony. You see the man, if you could call him that, the vampire, if you could call him that, the god that will one day be the prince of 100,000 leaves, as he bites into the heart, looking at you. He doesn't win. But you can't win this fight now either. Not without your allies. You have to put the lid back on this jar.
All right, I cap it.
You place the lid back on the jar, and you are looking at yourself closing that loop. It seems that every time you open the jar, you are transported to a timeline that has some sort of significance. Significance to you, you don't know. Significant to the world, you're sure about it. And then as you come to the realization that every time you close this jar, the loop gets closed. you begin to wonder what other situations, what other timelines, what other fixes you might be able to do, to undo, to create, to destroy. Is this what a god of time feels like?
Feels pretty damn close.
Instead of behind you, next to you, you hear the voice of Anansi. He says, crick crack, monkey breaky back for a piece of pomerac. You might have no idea what that means. He looks at you and he says, I see all timelines as just stories. Every story has a beginning. Every story has an end. But usually, it's not the end or the beginning that we remember. It's oftentimes the center. What happens at the core of the story? It's really important. Would you like to join this legacy?
Yes.
The scene shifts. You are in the jar. There are 2 pocket watches. It seems that they are orbiting you. What do you do?
I try to grab both.
You reach out both hands. It's not a matter of trying. It's a matter of command. And they both float elegantly into the center of your 2 palms. You hear a voice from next to you. Anything you want to change, any timeline you want to create, this is where you can do it. Now is when you can do it.
Any timeline I would want to change. As much as I would love to fix the 1692 timeline, I think it'd be best to let things play out as destiny sees fit.
Destiny. 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 The word reverberates through the space around you. You look around, you're moving through this honey. You think that you could make this space your own. Do you try to?
It is my space. And it's already mine.
Destiny, destiny, destiny. Do you alter the destinies of other persons?
But it's not my place to do so.
All of a sudden, a path now springs in front of you. As you look around, you realize that you are standing at the center of a golden web of honey. At every node, there's a version of yourself looking at another version of yourself, looking at another version of yourself. You realize that with quick contemplation, you could look at or through the eyes of another version of yourself, looking at other versions of yourself. It seems that they are all watching each other. You hear a voice to the side of you again. He says, "This is the help that I need. We need to control the abyss. Not control the abyss per se, but the influences that come. Magic is in the world, magic is present, so the abyss must be present. But its effects we could control. You instantly snapped a timeline where an abyssal manifestation is destroying a village. All of its villagers.
Actually, it's a city, and it's the city of Richmond, Virginia.
Look at that. Yeah, it's horrible. Villagers are being melted into puddles of water. There is something that you can do. Normally, I would be the one fixing these problems, closing these loops. But you now hold the jar in your hands. It is your tasks now.
I look at the jar in my hand. It seems overtly familiar now. Like it's like part of it in its sense. Almost like my own pocket watch, but more grandiose.
No, it is the pocket watch.
Oh, well.
You've been holding it this whole time.
Well. I imagine that the jar is open at this moment.
Yeah.
I look at the abyssal entity and I close the lid.
Instantly, the scene is replaced with a sense of calm. But the lid does not go back on completely as there is honey flowing out. You must stop the flow of honey to close the lid.
Somewhere down in the jar.
Okay, I look into the jar, see what's causing it to overflow.
You sense that this entity is not so easily closed. This loop is not so easily closed. You sense that there are many layers of time that this entity has used to construct a body for itself here. So while you may close one loop of this entity, there are dozens more existing in this same time.
All right, what do you suggest I do to close them all at once?
The figure besides you, he says, well, if I knew how to do that, I wouldn't need you, now would I?
Well then. So then again, I guess if he's traversing so many layers, then I must find, I guess, the beginning of when those layers started to form.
How about you look at the end?
What is the beginning if not the end as well? So I guess I go to the end. Yeah.
And at the end, you see the pools.
Now, as I've promised, I'll help you with the spell on closing the loops. Now that you've gotten accustomed to using this jar, there are certain things that must happen. Every spell that you cast with this jar needs 5 components. 5 particular components that have to be found in various timelines. especially if you want to close the loop of a powerful abyssal entity that is composed of multiple loops.
Right, what are those components then?
Well, those components actually depend on the entity itself. What is the essence of the entity that you're fighting? What is its name? All of these things must be considered because, as you remember, we are all composed of loops.
And I do think that there is one of those 5 elements for each one of the overarching paths. So we would have essence, we would have name, we would have history. You must take a piece of its history, or story. Doesn't have to be his story. You would also need to have part of its essentially soul, but abyssal creatures don't have souls, so it's more like you would need a piece of its anti-soul. And for our final path, let's see, we've got spirit, we've got prime, we've got time, we've got death. How do you get a piece of its mind? I think you'd need to have something that is connected to it, something important to it.
Place these things into the jar before closing, and that completes the spell.
Okay.
And with that, you are standing on the ziggurat. You are alone, but you have a clay jar in your hands.
Oh, this battle, huh? From the top of the ziggurat. I'm gonna take a small piece of the ziggurat. I guess there's blood everywhere, right? I guess I'll take a little bit of blood.
With those 2 things, the blood-soaked piece of ziggurat, you have accomplished collecting the essence of the Prince of 100,000 Leaves.
Oh.
Which means that you just need his name, history, anti-soul, and something that's important to him.
Yeah, the anti-soul sounds really hard. I have an idea of its history. I was definitely shown sort of the beginning.
With the anti-soul, if you collect the other 4 and you bring the jar to it, it will Ghostbusters their soul.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, just write a note. Get this last with the soul part. How do I collect one's history? It's not necessarily a material thing, but I guess I could do a time spell to sort of take fragments of it and throw it in there.
You need something that is symbolic of their history. It can be a written record of everything that they've done. For example, it could be an autobiography. It could be a particular work of art. There's a few ways.
Okay. Didn't I have that book that had mentionings of who they were?
The Ogma Infinium did hold all knowledge, and if you ever wanted to, you could go and look at it again. But you also remember what happened, what you found the last time you looked at it.
Yeah. What kind of art have I seen any art involving the prince?
No, you're gonna have to find that someplace else in the time
Yeah.
stream. Actually, Mona does know that there is some inside of the ziggurat, but I don't know if she ever shared that with you. And I think that the battle resumes. Time continues. You'll have to find the true name, soul, and history, and something important to the prince elsewhere in time.
I got my work cut out.
Yeah.
How
it's
much?
almost as if you've been duped.
Tricked into holding the world on your shoulders, you might say.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I do like the idea of my character just holding a jar now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have a pocket watch in the jar instead of 2 pocket watches.
No, actually, it is that you have 2 pocket watches and they can both turn into jars, but you've never opened the second one.
Perhaps for another time.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Well, it was so wonderful having you guest star, Kazabon. I've had so much fun in this session, and
Yeah,
this is wild. There's a lot of stuff that happened that I was like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Not a clue.
yeah, that's usually how I feel most times. I usually just think about the story that I want to live, I guess.
Yeah. Because that's what we're doing. We're creating those stories right now.
Yeah. Question is life. So yeah, I had fun as well. Thanks for having me. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Legendary. Trevor, you get 2 experience points, and you've got a legacy now, which you and Kazabon and I will work through. I don't know if we ended up settling on a name.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking Silk Cotton Chronoverge. The Silk Cotton tree has a very interesting history. I'll give you a little detail about that. In the island where I'm from, it is said that all of these spiritual entities, they manifest from the silk cotton tree. The first persons that arrived to the islands here, they use a particular form of flight where they would dance almost like walk wind the shins around the silk cotton tree. And while walking around that tree, they found themselves in different times, different locations, different spaces. So it was something that really stood out in terms of making a legacy that was time focused, but also disrespected the modern day linearity of time. Also
The
being
lie.
a cycle. Yeah, the lie.
It sure seems like we're living in this one timeline, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I guess it's because of ego reinforcing. Like they reinforce this ego to a point where we believe that this is us.
Kids experience time very differently than adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great day, both of you, and I'll see you around.
Till next
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Later.